Ladies and gentlemen, Democrats would need 17 Republicans to vote alongside them to convict President Trump of something that he didn't do. He did not tell or instruct anyone to do anything horrendous or commit any atrocity. He did not communicate that they should engage in a certain type of behavior. He's protected under the First Amendment. Political speech is protected under the First Amendment. If they were to convict President Trump during impeachment, they could do so with a number of Democrats who've stated even more egregious things. Actually, things like get in their faces, get in people's faces. It's Democrats who've been telling voters and supporters to make people uneasy and get in the faces of others. And you can look at, there are about 5 or 6 Democrats, including Vice President Kamala Harris, who have said things that could be easily impeachable now in today's political climate. That's what they were going to. Impeachment lawyers were thinking of actually getting Democrats as witnesses, which would be fantastic, and read back their own words to them. So the past 4 years in terms of rhetoric against President Trump has been horrendous. They wouldn't want the words that they've uttered against Trump and Trump's supporters to be part of this trial. But here, I want to read you this. Even the New York Times, only 6, by the way, voted to have this thing continue. Only 6 senators. You would need 17 senators on the Republican side. They don't have the votes. They never had the votes. Hit subscribe right now to this channel. I've been telling you for weeks and weeks that they don't have the votes to convict President Trump. The Attorney General of D.C., the Mayor of D.C., they're not convicting, they're not leveling charges at President Trump. Why? The Biden administration this is going to be a catastrophic loss for Democrats. They're going to vindicate the president. You have this trial because you can't have a trial in a court of law. So you have a Senate trial, which is everybody from Trey Gowdy now is saying this is a complete farce. Like, he's kind of an not establishment Republican, but he's kind of like in between President Trump and like Mitch McConnell. And he's saying this is a bunch of nonsense. But hit subscribe right now to this channel. We're on our way to 200,000 plus subscribers. I'll be back numerous times today, this evening. I wanted to wait until today is, all the news is done, and I want to just focus. There's other things to talk about, but I want to focus on this. Day 1 impeachment trial highlights Senate vote to proceed with Trump's case after constitutionality debate. The 56-44 vote paved the way for the House Democrats trying the case to formally open their arguments at noon on Wednesday. 6 GOP senators vote to proceed with the trial. One more than in a similar vote last month. Okay, so you only have 6. You need 17. The 56-44 vote with 6 Republicans joining all 50 Democrats paved the way for the House Democrats trying the case to formally open their arguments on Wednesday. Why don't Democrats, because they sued Russia, they sued the Republican Party. They sued Trump, Russia, the Loch Ness Monster, Santa Claus. They sued a whole bunch of people in 2016 or 2017 because they didn't like the outcome. See, they're the ones who did not transfer power peacefully. They're the ones who sowed distrust in our institutions. They're the ones who tarnished our democracy by spending every single second of every single day of every single month questioning the results of November of 2016. Then President Trump did the same thing, but he didn't have intelligence operatives. He didn't have all of Hollywood. He didn't have media. And he didn't have his own political party. He kind of did towards the end, But he didn't have... Trump did not have direct evidence. Democrats did not have direct evidence. The difference is they purchased a dossier. And then BuzzFeed published a dossier that's complete, full of baseless allegations and claims. So you have a dossier, you have James Clapper and Comey and Strzok and McCabe and Clapper who say, gosh, we really think that he was a Russian operative. And they utilize this well of this ingrained fear that this country has due to the Cold War. For 50 years, we've had this fear of Russia or the Soviet Union before the wall collapsed. And so they said, you know what, we're going to turn ourselves into we're going to become the new Cold Warriors. Why? Because we lost an election. And the same liberals who talk about xenophobia all the time will just literally blame another country for our problems. So what they did is they blamed Russia for their problems, which is the textbook definition of xenophobia. They're literally blaming another country for their problems because they lost. And then they went after Trump for being this horrible demagogue, this despot, this tyrant. That's what tyrants do. They blame other countries for their problems. They spent 4 years obsessing. And they are the ones who were compromised. They're the ones who accepted money from Uranium One through a foundation. And then, of course, Uranium One got beneficial treatment. President Obama did not veto a sale that eventually gave Putin control of 20% of U.S. uranium capacity for a certain time period. That is a fact. Snopes won't debunk that. The New York Times spoke about that once, long time ago in 2015, when they actually here and there did some journalism. I mean, you have a greater link between Democrats and Russia than Trump, but see, they're the ones who, and they're still doing it today. They're former KGB agent said that Trump has been groomed for 40 years. Well, nobody talked about Trump and Russia prior to 2016. The whole thing, all they did for the past 4 years was deflect from their own sins and their own failures. And in the end, all of President Trump's accomplishments, the Abraham Accords, that being the first president to step foot in North Korea, where both countries now, South Korea and Israel, want Biden's administration to continue the foreign policy of Trump's tenure. They want, because it was very successful. They want the United States, they want Biden to continue what Trump created. President Trump, compared to President Obama with Libya and Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld with numerous other countries, left the world in a better place. He left the world with peace deals. He left the world in a much better place. He didn't destabilize regions of the world like his predecessors did. But what took place is that what happened, unfortunately, is there's a cyber reality. There's no Republican Party. There are two reasons why you have social media suppression and censorship and all this stuff, a double standard in terms of the Justice Department, intelligence operatives only going after President Trump, never Democrats. Here, there are two reasons, okay? One is that the Republican Party does not speak with one voice. Now, when push comes to shove, six will become turncoats and join Democrats. You'll never get six senators voting alongside Republicans. You'll never get six Democrats voting alongside Republicans. That'll never happen in this day and age. You'll get six Republicans voting alongside Democrats. The good thing is that at least the vast majority of Republicans in the Senate sided with Trump. So that's a good thing. You're seeing President Trump, the takeover is almost complete of the Republican Party. It'll be a populist conservative political party, which is exactly how Trump got into office, which is exactly why he was able to achieve great things in terms of foreign policy. He did not intervene, engage in regime changes. He opposed the Lincoln Project. These are all very good things. He renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA. He allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever. Fact, and made the funding permanent. Signed the First Step Act. These are populist, conservative, or populist policies, or a populist mindset. But that doesn't happen with Mitt Romney. You see, when Democrats, one person, I'd vote for Mitt Romney. It's like, that's why I'm voting for Trump. That's why I'm voting for Trump. But there are two reasons why all of this is taking place. Why they're not going after Trump in a court of law, and why you have 6 senators siding with them. Of course, you had Mitt Romney and Ben Sasse and others who were part of the 6. But the Republicans have yet to finally capitulate to President Trump. They spent 4 years investigating a Republican president. And then you have to hear the nonsense, well, Trump is a Republican. Not really. He is, but the GOP hasn't come to terms yet. In 2022, when they take over the House with Trump Republicans, then it'll be a completely different ballgame. Once you have a political party where Devin Nunes and Matt Gaetz and Jim Jordan and Kevin McCarthy and once you have a political party where Ron Johnson and Rand Paul, where they control what goes on in the political party and they serve as an opposition to the Democratic Party insanity, you'll have a pushback. You'll have an opposition political party. Okay? You'll have investigations. You'll have a push for accountability. You don't now. You had Richard Burr and you had Ben Sasse and Mitt Romney and Paul Ryan. You cannot. The reason when people say there's the double standard, it's not fair, it'll never work. There's nothing ever happens. There's never anybody getting indicted. No accountability. That's because you have Republicans who don't want that to take place. Republicans like Mitt Romney want Democrats to harm politically President Trump. Once you have a completely new political party that embraces a president that did so much for them, then it's a new ballgame. We have to wait 2 years, unfortunately, but you're already seeing it taking place. 44 senators voting against this nonsense. Okay, you need 17, so he's going to be acquitted. It's certain. The acquittal is imminent. So there's no doubt about that. The second reason we face this political climate is that social media, especially Twitter, is the worst platform known to man. If the devil decided to create a social media platform, it would be Twitter. Twitter is a place where I don't have Twitter. I haven't had Twitter for 2 years. I've told people 2 years ago, get off social media, delete your Twitter and Facebook account. And that's what I did 2 years ago. Okay? Twitter is a place, and I have like some person impersonating me on Twitter is breaking the law, but that Twitter's a place where people break the law all the time. Twitter is a place where words quickly transform into emotion. Ideas quickly transform into emotion. Okay? And you have ideas and viewpoints that would never gain traction without getting retweeted a million times and having little different little cults within this cyber reality. You have viewpoints and sentiments that wouldn't be taken seriously. But Twitter gives not only a voice to political views or sentiments or contempt for Trump, for example, that wouldn't have taken place. And Trump misused Twitter. He did misuse Twitter. President Trump should never have insulted LeBron James. He should never have insulted NFL athletes. And yes, I'm going to say it. Oh, yes, I'm going to say it. People say, why are you going to say, I'm getting real tired of you saying that. It's like, yeah, I got to learn. You got to learn, because by God Almighty, you don't want to continue the same mistakes again. You don't want in 2022 we finally take control of the GOP. And I'm not a Republican, but like I have like populist views on the left and right are infinitely better than the centrist Mitt Romney and Nancy Pelosi viewpoint of politics. But if you don't learn from the mistakes, we're going to then lose any political influence that we gain. So we have to be, President Trump needs to be more diplomatic. The sledgehammer and bulldozer mentality does not work all the time. At least pick and choose your times, but create a national discourse, create a discussion, circumvent Twitter as it tanks. It'll eventually keep tanking without President Trump. But Democrats cannot, they cannot, the political party doesn't exist without a forum, a cyber reality, an alternate reality where their political attacks gain life, where accusations like Trump is equal to the 1930s and 1940s Germans. This is an irrational, absurd, ludicrous, borderline insane, I mean it is insane, mentality. There are people who truly believe this. To equate Trump to the 1930s and 1940s Germans, and I can't use the word, is not a normal vantage point for rational people who have critical thinking skills. Or you don't even have to have critical thinking skills. If you're a rational human being, you know there's no correlation at all. President Trump signed an executive order combating anti-Semitism on college campuses. President Trump signed prison reform. President Trump removed Americans from war zones and ended America's longest-running military conflict and did not engage in regime change and interventions. President Trump did not blame one country for his problems for 4 years. That was the Democratic Party. President Trump moved the embassy to Jerusalem. President Trump recognized the Golan as Israel's. President Trump was the greatest friend to Israel of any president. So to equate, because of mean tweets, President Trump to the 1930s and 1940s Germans is, you must have zero grasp of history. You have to basically have not only zero grasp of history, but be such an apoplectic, seething, fuming, hysterical, fanatical cult member of the Democratic Party that you lose all rational thought. And that was perpetuated by the social media platform. That was perpetuated within a cyber reality called Twitter. All of the most absurd allegations against Trump, whether it was the Moscow hotel room, or he was a 1930s and 1940s German, or, and I can't say the word, that's why I describe it that way. And, he pressured Zelensky in Ukraine to investigate Biden, which wasn't, he had every right to ask about Biden's behavior. Just like intelligence operatives ask on behalf of President, just like intelligence operatives set up and framed Trump on behalf of President Obama. See, Democrats live in this fairy tale world where President Obama was completely removed. It was a national security threat. But Facebook ads are not national security threats. The DNC being hacked by Russia, that's not a national security threat. It's not a national security threat. They have decided that because Democrats lose an election, that's an actual national security threat, even though they have zero evidence that a Facebook ad or Twitter bots swung any votes. If anything, Twitter gives life to ideas that don't resonate outside its platform. And it's a place where vapid, nonsensical ideas and phrases and words become even more popular. which is why AOC is so popular on Twitter. But without Twitter, you don't have a Democratic Party. Okay? Because Twitter allows Democrats to say Medicare for all, and then funnel all the Medicare for all voters back into the Democratic Party, when in reality, Bernie Sanders and AOC don't want Medicare for all. They don't want, I say this with all due respect for any person on the left, they do not want Medicare for all. They don't want it. Democrats don't. The Green Party does, the People Party does, the Democratic Socialists of America. There are political parties who want it. They're small. Maybe you should try to build them up. But then you'd be called a Russian operative, and your friends would leave you because you're a Trump supporter, So the left doesn't want that. That's also the social media pressure. This is a cyber reality. It's not even real. And they think that because if they don't have a presence on Twitter that they won't prosper. I'm doing better than ever because I don't have Twitter. Or one of the reasons is because I don't have Twitter. My channel is gone. Everything's better. I'm working on something that's amazing. So, delete your Twitter account. There's no reason. But anyway, give me your thoughts below. I'll continue to talk about social media and Twitter and how it's really the only thing propping up Democrats. They don't have policies. They have peer pressure. They have groupthink. The way they work is hit pieces. So anyone they don't like is like either far right or horrible, a bad person, a grifter. But they're the biggest grifters. The Medicare for All scam that they've perpetuated upon their voters is an example, a huge example. They get $20 million in venture capital funding from this. From portraying themselves as really wanting this. But anyway, give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe. I'll be back numerous times tonight.